Hey friends. Today I'm gonna tell you the story of two brothers who decide to rob all the branches of a bank that gave them a loan they couldn't pay back, so they turn to crime while they get caught. Let's find out together. The movie starts with the two brothers, Tanner and Toby, robbing a bank branch. They're armed and wearing masks. They threaten a bank employee, telling her to open the vault, or they'll kill whoever's inside. The employee says she doesn't have the vault's password and doesn't know it. The only person who knows the password is an employee named Klaus, who hasn't arrived at the bank yet. So Tanner and Toby get ready for Klaus to show up. As soon as he walks in through the bank door, they hit him and order him to open the vault. They steal all the money inside and quickly escape in their car. Tanner and Toby plan to do the same robbery again at the same bank, but this time, a bank employee shoots at them while they're trying to get away. After that, they go back to their mom's farm, bury the money in a big hole, and cover it with dirt to hide any evidence of the crime. At the police station in Glady, Texas, Officer Alberto walks in on his partner Marx, who's about to retire. Alberto and Marx often argue with each other. Alberto tells Marx about the two bank branch robberies, and they start working on the case. Meanwhile, Toby is sitting outside their house counting the stolen money. Tanner, his brother, is standing next to him, bored. We learn Tanner's been in prison for 10 years. They go inside the house. Tanner sadly opens the door to their late mother's room and looks at her bed. Toby joins him. Tanner says, "I could have been with her before she died." They go back outside, and Tanner asks Toby if their mom left a will before she died. Toby says she did. Tanner guesses she didn't mention him in the will, and says she always hated him. Toby tries to calm him down, and says the will's not that important, anyway, she wrote everything in their names, and he's gonna leave it to Tanner's kids. Then, Tanner and Toby get a new car from the garage because they're planning another heist. At the same time, Marx and Alberto arrive at the first robbed bank branch. Marx's first request is for security camera footage, but the employee says the cameras weren't working. Marx gets frustrated and asks the employee to describe the thieves. The employee gives some descriptions. Marx also talks to a female employee and gets some more details. But since the robbers were wearing masks, they don't get a clear description. Next, Marx starts tracking the stolen bills by their serial numbers. Back to Tanner and Toby, they're having lunch. Tanner asks Toby when he last saw his kids. Toby says it's been a year. Tanner excitedly says, "Then we gotta rob another bank." He gets up and says he's gonna hit the bathroom. A waitress brings Toby a coffee and starts flirting with him. Tanner's not in the bathroom though. He finds a mask near the restaurant, puts it on, and goes to rob the bank. Toby gets bored waiting and goes outside, where he sees Tanner running toward him with money flying everywhere. The brothers jump in their car and speed off. Toby yells at Tanner, "You want to get us killed, dumbass?" He tells Tanner they agreed to rob branches of a bank called Midland, and the one Tanner hit wasn't one of theirs. They decide they gotta go bury this car too. Tanner can't defend himself 'cause Toby's right. They bury the car like the last one, grab a third car from the garage, and head to some farmland owned by the guy Tanner works for. Tanner lives there in a small trailer as part of his job. He goes inside to rest and drinks some beer. After making sure the coast is clear, the two get in the car. Tanner loads 2 bags with weapons and sniper rifles. Toby asks why he brought all that. Tanner says maybe they'll need it, and he can't leave it in the trailer. Then they drive off. At that time, Marx got a radio signal saying that a third bank was robbed, but it wasn't one of the Midland branches. Alberto told Marx his guess that those kids were drug addicts, because crimes like that only come from drug addicts. He said they're robbing with a lot of guts, one after another. Marx replied thoughtfully that drug addicts usually act out of their mind, but these kids are planning very carefully, and know exactly what they're doing. To the third bank that got robbed, it was right next to the restaurant they were at. He went inside and sat with a female employee, asking about what happened. Marx asked the bank manager for the security camera footage. This time, the cameras were working, and they gave him the recordings. Marx told Beirut to wait for the footage while he'd go check out the restaurant next door to the bank. Went inside the restaurant, and saw the waitress and 3 customers sitting down. He asked the waitress if she saw or knew anything about what happened. She said her coworker Jenny saw them, taking advantage of the moment, and sat next to the 3 customers to ask if they saw anything. One of them said the kids looked like brothers because they resembled each other. One was tall and the other short, and they were sitting side by side at the table. The waitress asked her about what happened. He found out one of the brothers left her a $200 tip. Marks told him to get the $200 from her because it could be evidence of the robbery. She hesitated but then gave him the $200, saying it was her tip. The waitress smiled and walked away, and the people sitting all started laughing. Alberto, Marks's partner, came in and told him about Tanner's description after checking the camera footage. Marks told Alberto to try to get the $200 from the waitress and tell her it's the only evidence they have of the crime. Then he reminded him not to forget to book a room for them at the small hotel nearby for the night. Alberto asked why they'd sleep there, and Marks said he was sure their next move would be at that same place. Meanwhile, the brothers were driving to a new location. On the way, they stopped at a gas station to buy some stuff. Tanner got into a fight with another guy in a different car nearby. The other guy pulled out a gun and threatened Tanner. Toby came out of the supermarket and saw what was happening, so he attacked the guy. They jumped into the car and left. They went to a big hotel with a large casino hall to start laundering the money they stole. They converted all the cash into casino chips, so the serial numbers on the bills disappeared. When they came back to exchange the chips later, they got new cash. Tanner took a few chips and started playing and winning, obviously, because the money was increasing. Then they went back to the casino window, exchanging the chips they had for some cash and some checks drawn from the Texas bank they had robbed. They took the money and checks from a bank employee and went to the hotel to spend the night. At the same time, Marks and Alberto were at the small hotel arguing a lot until Alberto got tired and went to sleep. The next morning, the brothers went to a lawyer and showed him a casino check with their money to release the mortgage on the land and house their mom left them. Their mom had died with a lot of debts. The lawyer told them that they could get their money back and lift the mortgage, and the total debt was $43,000. Once they pay it, the mortgage on the land and house would be fully released. At that time, Marks and Alberto were at a small restaurant having breakfast. Marks suspected they might try to rob the bank next to the restaurant, so he brought Alberto there to have breakfast close to the bank. After the brothers finished with the lawyer, they went to an old car dealership. Tanner bought a pickup truck and moved his weapons there. Toby took his car and went to his ex-wife to see his kids. She accepted, and he told her their mother had died and that he inherited the farm and house. She let the kids stay a while with their dad. Toby took his son, and they talked in the garden. Toby told him he'd put the farm in both their names so when they grow up, they can do whatever they want, but asked him not to sell it. He said the land had oil, which meant a lot of money. Finally, before leaving, he told his son, "If you ever hear bad things about me, try to understand and don't be like I was one day." His son replied, "Even if they say bad things about you, I won't believe it." Toby went back to the farm and found his brother preparing weapons. Toby told him the next robbery would need 2 cars, not just one, and he'd keep the weapons with him. Back at the police, Marks and Alberto came out of the restaurant, took 2 chairs and a small table, and sat on the sidewalk watching the bank. But nothing happened. The next morning, Alberto left his buddy Mark and went back to the hotel room, while Mark stayed sitting, keeping an eye on the bank. Meanwhile, the brothers were having breakfast and making plans for their mission. They were gonna rob 2 more branches of Midland Bank. So they grabbed their 2 cars and headed out early. They got to the first branch, but luck wasn't on their side, the place was closed. So they decided to hit the second branch instead. On the way, Tanner, Toby's brother, stopped them while they were driving and said, "Let's rob a different branch." Toby was surprised and asked why. Tanner said there was a branch called Post that was way bigger and meant way more money. Toby agreed. At the same time, Mark and Alberto were planning to catch them. Mark started analyzing past robbery data and figured out there were only 3 branches left from the same bank. One was closed today, so he ruled it out. The second one was small and in a big city with lots of cops, so it wasn't a good target. That left just the post branch, the one the brothers were actually heading to rob. The brothers decided to ride in one car. Tanner got out of his car and went with Toby to Post City. They put on masks and gloves and started breaking into the bank. They were surprised to see the bank was packed with people, but they kept going with the robbery. Toby told the employees to open the drawers and hand over the cash. Meanwhile, a girl inside sent a text to her dad from her phone, warning him the bank was being robbed. Suddenly, a security guard appeared inside and started shooting at the brothers. Tanner shot back and killed the guard. Then someone else fired at them, but Tanner shot and killed that guy too. They grabbed the money and ran. Outside, someone was waiting in front of the bank, shooting at them. The brothers jumped in their cars and sped off. Some guys chased them in cars and kept shooting. Mark and Alberto got a tip and realized the brothers were halfway down the road. The brothers stopped their car, as did their pursuers. They got out, drew their weapons, and Tanner grabbed a machine gun from the car and opened fire until their cars got destroyed. They ran, grabbed their other cars, and fled, with no one chasing them anymore. They went back to the spot where Toby had parked his car earlier. On the way, Tanner shot his little brother Toby in the stomach, but it wasn't serious. Tanner told him, "Leave me. I'll deal with the cops and people. You go pay off the mortgage on the land and the house." Toby didn't want to leave him but had no choice. They said goodbye, knowing they might never see each other again. Toby took his car and left. Tanner drove off and soon ran into police on the road. He tried to lead them into a trap, driving into a rocky area with tall mountains. The cops followed him. Tanner grabbed a tube filled with flammable materials that were in the car and lit it on fire. The cops kept chasing him as the car caught fire. He drove up to a high spot, jumped out with a sniper rifle, and the car rolled downhill on its own toward the police cars, forcing them to back off. Some cops ran out of their cars, but Tanner ran toward a hill and started sniping at them. He managed to shoot Alberto in the head, killing him. Alberto fell dead next to Mark. Even though they often argued, Mark was very upset about Alberto's death. Mark came up with a plan. He climbed the hill from the other side and found a spot where he could see Tanner. He shot him in the head and killed him. At that time, Toby was on the road. The police had set up an ambush. After some routine questioning, they let Toby go without noticing the bullet wound in his side. The next day, Toby watched the news. They reported his brother had been killed by the police. Meanwhile, Toby exchanged the stolen money for untraceable cash as usual, then went to pay off the mortgage on the house and land he inherited from his mother. Mark was looking through Tanner's file and discovered he had been in prison and was a known criminal. He went to Toby's house and found him. Mark told Toby Tanner had killed his brother, but Toby said Tanner had started it all. He was the one who opened fire first and killed one of his own men. Mark looked at the oil drilling equipment starting up on the farm and said they'd make a lot of money from that oil, way more than from the robbery. Toby said, "I've been poor all my life, but my kid won't grow up poor." A car pulled up to Toby's house, and his kids and ex-wife got out to come back together and live on the farm. When they went inside, the mood changed. Mark told Toby's wife he was a friend of her husband and came inside. Toby left alone, and Mark told him to protect him from the cops and promised to give him half the stolen money and what they'd earned from the oil. After thinking it over, Mark agreed. The amount was going to be huge. The movie ended like that. If you like the movie, please hit the like button, write your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.